Umma is a supernatural horror film starring Sandra Oh, Fievel Stewart, and Dermot Mulroney. It's about Amanda, a Korean woman who had a traumatic experience as a child dealing with her overbearing mother. She now lives in America on a farm. She has her own daughter now, and because of those experiences as a child, she has the Chuck McGill disease where electricity or any sort of power makes her feel ill, and so she sort of lives completely off the grid. Things She seems to have a good life at this point. She's a beekeeper. She seems to be happy in her current life, but things escalate when her uncle shows up with the remains of her mom. Her mom had died a few months earlier, and they've delivered the remains to her. And now all of these deep-seated issues start kind of popping up around her as she deals with the feelings of loss and also kind of bringing up these traumatic events of the past. So this movie was set up really well. I love the concept of it. I love the idea of it, and I think from a narrative perspective, there's a lot of material here to really mine. And it kind of brings to mind that movie Relic, the Australian movie about the family that's struggling with dementia for an older family member. And this has like that kind of feeling to it where, you know, this woman has a daughter. You've got three generations of women essentially. She has a daughter. She had a traumatic experience from her mother, and then bringing in these remains and the death of her mom forces her to sort of interact with her past and her feelings of how she treats her daughter now. The problem here is there's a lot of material, but the movie doesn't seem to want to take any time in actually digging into this. That's one of the differences between this and, say, that movie Relic, where I felt like Relic spent a lot of time very slowly kind of unfolding this relationship between the mom, the grandmother, and the daughter. Instead, this movie seems to be really hell-bent on just getting as much jump scares as humanly possible. I mean, the movie checks in at around 87 minutes, so it's fairly short, and it's just trying to set up the next jump scare. So every 5 minutes or every 2 minutes, it is trying to set up another way to jump scare you into something. It's, you know, either it's a ghost jump scare or it's an item jump scare or a music cue, whatever it happens to be. But I feel like instead of kind of digging into the mythology and digging into the history of these people and kind of dealing with these major issues, instead it really stays very surface level. And although you have some amazing performances, I mean, Sandra Oh does a fantastic job of sort of navigating this line of, you know, being fearful of turning into her mother, then, but also kind of turning into her mother. And so navigating that and her relationship with her daughter. And then, of course, the daughter wants to go away to school. And so that kind of accelerates the feeling of abandonment that Sandra Oh feels. And so all of these things are fascinating and are played well from a character perspective, but they never really have a chance to breathe. Instead, it's just, you know, you're dealing with every few minutes it's trying to set up some sort of ghost jump scare, and that is really a shame because I feel like you really had the ability to mine something interesting out of this story, and instead it's kind of falls down into lowest common denominator kind of scares, and that's really a shame. And I wonder if there was a longer cut of this movie, or I wonder if the script was longer and this was sort of trimmed down either in post or during production or in pre-production, because it feels like there's a better story in here, or could have been a better story, but they just don't seem to want to make it happen. I mean, one of the problems from a technical standpoint, God, this movie's dark, like really dark. Now, you know, there's no electricity in the movie, and that's set up early on, and I totally get that. So the majority of the movie is lit through either candles or lanterns or moonlight. But man, is it so dark. There are some scenes that are happening in the moonlight that I've never seen a moonlight quite this dark before, where during an action sequence, I couldn't see anything that was going on. Like, you could barely understand what was happening in the scene because there's a lot of action and the camera's moving, and it's super, super dark. There's a lot of moments where people are peering into the darkness, and you're supposed to see something, I think, but you can't. I thought that was a very strange choice. But All in all, it's not a bad film, and the performances are really solid. It just feels like it hurries itself through the material way too much. It should have been a bit more patient and really explored this dynamic between sort of the three generations of women and their own sort of insecurities. I would give this movie probably a C plus, um, just because I think it really could have done a lot better with the people that were involved.